Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's hear it, everyone. It is time to get this party started. You know what makes me happy is seeing you guys lined up, getting ready to get your questions answered, because we are here for you as part of the fan experience. So without further ado, let me welcome to the stage right now, Miss Hayley Atwell. Bring it! I love that welcome. We here in DC know how to welcome our guests.
I certainly do. I want to stay. Can I do that entrance again?
Yeah. That'll just be the 40 minutes, right? We'll just keep you moving.
It's a constant cycle of validation fees.
I do love that everyone's lined up to ask their questions, so you'll see me get to them right away, because like I was saying, we're here for them.
Yes.
So let's start with you, because I know DJ Elliott was like, don't forget your question, don't be nervous. You're like, oh, okay. So we'll come to you first. What's your name?
My name's Lexi.
Hi, Lexi.
I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and my question kind of goes with Pride Month. Do you consider Captain Carter or Peggy Carter a bicon?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think from the very beginning, when there was, with Cartonelli, the idea that there was this intimacy between them that really took the LGBTQ community by storm and to their hearts. And it felt only right that with all the value system that Peggy Carter had, that would be extended into Pride. So I'm very, very proud of myself to make sure that Peggy is an advocate of that too.
Thank you.
Awesome question, Lexi. Hi there, how are you? And what's your name?
My name is Joel James, and I've actually met you at AwesomeCon.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's me. So yeah, my question is, when you were first cast as Agent Carter, did you ever imagine that you would end up being a multiversal variant of Captain America, that you would end up getting the super soldier serum and being Captain Carter?
That's an amazing question. I'm imagining my younger self hearing that and fainting. There was no expectation, because of course this was before a time when Marvel is what it is now, and Captain America First Avenger started to build up this new phase of Marvel. So there was always a risk, and every time as an actor you do a job, there are so many other factors involved that you never know how it's going to be received. So when we filmed it, it was for me, I was like, okay, just go to work.
Yeah.
And I love the experience, but then beyond that, the films belong to you. You decide what they mean to you. And so to have the feedback of going, we set out to do something that would delight the audience, and you guys, here you are years later, still being a part of the experience. It's very much down to your support of it, so I thank you for that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Well, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Do you have at home like a wall of sticky notes so you can just keep track of everything? Like, how do you keep it together?
Oh yeah, my whole wall is just kind of, no, it's not. I have no idea. Do you know, I was doing play, because I'm classically trained, in London, and I had this fan come up to me, it was years ago, and a fan came up to me afterwards after I got off stage, and he just had the most extraordinary monologue of connections to characters, little details of the world, and his attention to detail and his commitment to understanding the worlds of it. I was in awe, and he was going, so what do you think? Do you think that will happen? And I was like, I think you're speaking another language, and it's very impressive, but I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's hard for me to catch up, but I think that's also part of the fun of Marvel, is that it's so rich that you can always find hidden Easter eggs in it and little treats, and when you rewatch it, you can make all these extra connections to it, and also feel, that feeling of when you watch a thing and then you feel like there's a familiarity, like, oh my god, that makes sense, I understand the reference from 2 films ago. Like, that is part of the joy of creating this multiverse web that Marvel do so brilliantly, and that you guys get to participate in that.
Well, and to bring it together too on the big screen as well as the small screen has just been so phenomenal to see. Let's get to your question over here. Hi, what's your name?
Sabrina, and I'm a DC area native. Welcome to DC, Hayley.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you'd had a chance to check out the episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where Elizabeth Henstridge attempted to channel you.
Did she? How did she do? Because she's another Brit, isn't she?
Yeah,
Fantastic. I bet she did it.
She's another Brit and was rather rather funny because Sousa was in the episode and he actually said, "That's the fakest British accent I've ever heard," which is funny since both the character and the actress are quite British.
I remember Ed Fair calling me up and saying, do you mind that I'm in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? He felt that like he was betraying me somehow. And I was like, just don't have as much fun there as you did with Agent Carter. Just remember where your loyalty lies. But he loved it, and I've yet to see it. I think maybe the fact I haven't seen it also suggests I'm kind of nervous that she's just a better impression of me than I can do of me. And then it will blow my mind.
Well, she didn't exactly try to mimic you, but it was rather funny watching this character who knew the real Peggy Carter go, yeah, that ain't her.
Thank you. Hi, question to you over here.
Hi Haley, I'm Laura from Washington, D.C.
Hi, you look amazing.
Thank you. My question is, what would your dream premise for Agent Carter Season 3 be, assuming that Endgame is canon?
Assuming Endgame is canon, okay. Well, in my mind, Steve's tired. And he needs to sit down. And he's had quite a lot of time to gather a fantastic book of recipes. So he's a fantastic cook. Because Peggy's busy. She's not been waiting for him. She's been busy. And she's got things to do. So... And the great thing is, Cap's cool with that, because he's a feminist. And he's not insecure about that. He lets her go off and live her best life and fulfill her truest potential because he knows the contribution that she's got to make in the world. And that makes him even more attracted to her. That's my...
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Josh from Charlottesville.
Hi.
And I just wanted to say, my aunt and uncle and I, we really enjoyed Agent Carter. That was like the first show we kind of ever really bonded over. But they did not know you had been in Captain America, so I had to loan. But it was great, and they really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and also, I was really glad. Okay, everybody here's seen Multiverse of Madness, right?
Well, plug your ears for like to be delicate with the spoilers.
We've got some
Okay.
people covering their ears here. Okay.
Okay. When you were fighting Wanda, I was so glad when you
La
said.
la 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 la. Yeah. Everyone just close your ears for the next 30 seconds.
Yeah, I was so glad when you said, I could do this all day. It's like,
Yeah, and in high heels.
that was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Hi, my name is Christian from Alexandria.
Hi,
So
Christian.
I love you in the Marvel movies, but I'm really excited to see you in the next Mission Impossible movie. Is there anything you can tease about, stunts you did, maybe your character name, anything you can give us?
It blows my mind every day on set going, what am I doing today? What am I jumping off of? So I trained for 5 months full time. So I had an Olympic martial art expert who trained me every afternoon in mixed martial arts. So I was learning foundation techniques to work out where my natural sort of abilities lay, to develop a fight sequence for my character that would be tailored to my own strengths. And then we were running, because at one point the trainer said, you will be running beside Mr. Running Man. And when he runs with every cell of his being. And I'm like, are you running away from a bear? Or like it's what he's running from and what he's running to. I've never seen anything like it. It's that in life it's just this surge of energy. So I was having to train to make sure I had some attempt to kind of catch up with her. What I can say about her is that her name is Grace. That's out there. She's a joy to play. She's mischievous and she's playful and she holds her own with him. And there's an element of kind of a comic element to it, which is great, which we haven't seen as much of in Mission before. It has a different tone to it. And in terms of stunts, I learned how to drift in a race car. No, so every time a friend gets into the car now and I give them the lift, they're like, oh God, please no. We're just going around the corner, please abide by the.
You're like, we are. Quick.
Yeah, yes we are. Swinging out the back of the car there. And the other things I think backflipped over a bridge, jumped off backwards off a moving train, a lot of running uphill in high heels while handcuffed to Mr. Cruz. That's all I will say. But it's his dedication to creating these extraordinary spectacles for the audience. It's entirely for you guys. His determination to not stop until it's absolutely pitch perfect, so that you guys come away from it feeling totally exhilarated by it. It's an amazing to see that every single day. He shows up, and it was a great learning experience for me of the generosity of spirit that he carries onto a set, and that he has time for his fans, and he really does. And I find that very, very moving and humbling to watch. And so, I'm learning from the great man himself. I'm like a Bambi. It's just starting out. But you're in for a treat. We've got about a year to go, and the reason for that is the film's got to be perfect. And we won't release it until it's ready. And it will be worth it, so you will enjoy it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm Carolyn, I'm from Winchester, Virginia, and I am a big Marvel fan, but I'm also a big fan of Black Mirror. And what was something that you took away from your experience in Black Mirror that you used in projects after?
Thank you for saying that. I love Black Mirror. When I was a fan of the first series, and I went to drama school with Jodie Whittaker, the Doctor Who was also in that first series. Yeah, and I remember watching it going, Jodie, this is amazing. It was literally the beginning of Black Mirror. This wasn't the high production value that it became in this incredible world. This was very, very simple ideas that felt like a very intelligent social commentary of our time. And I called them up myself. I went, can I be in? I'll be anything. I'll be in the background, just please. I really want to be in one of your shows. And Charlie Brooker said, okay, well, how about this script? And sent me, be right back. And I got goosebumps when I read the script. And I thought it was such a beautiful, intimate portrait on grief that, aside from the sci-fi elements or the futuristic elements of it, that it was ultimately about that very complicated line of when and how do you let go, and how do you do that in every day, but how do you still keep the memory of that person alive or keep them close to you in your heart? And she's battling that. And I think it just sort of, I think that job really taught me how to trust my own instincts, because it was very internal and very emotional. But I also knew the script and the story was so strong that if I just let go and trusted myself, then the story would tell itself. So I think that's probably what I took from it. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great question. Thank you. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I am Margarita from Alexandria. And my question is, you got the chance to play Peggy Carter in both live action and animation.
Yeah.
How was it different translating the character that you're already familiar with to the medium of animation?
I will sum that up in one word. Sweatpants. I got to go into a booth with no makeup on, in sweatpants, and sound like I was moving, but I wasn't. I was stationary. And actually, there was a couple of moments when I was recording that during lockdown in my living room, and I had no sort of proper soundproof areas. So there was a cupboard involved, various items of clothing over my head, and I was just kind of like doing this, and I was just like in this dark thing. I was going, oh, pow, oh, this is so fun, and making all these like action sounds. And I also remember at one point the sound engineer just went, sorry, Hayley, can you, sorry, but stop. Is that a dog snoring? Yeah. So the thing is though, if they're not in the room with me, they'll scratch on the door because they want to come in. But if they are in the room with me, they're going to be snoring. So I said, you choose. What is it? Lesser of two evils. So that was sort of my takeaway experience. It was very guerrilla style, I feel, recording that. And the making of it was much funnier than than it needed to be and should have been. But we finally got there eventually, and it was just so fun. It's really, and also I wasn't watching the animation, so I had to trust that they would be able to match what I was doing to the physicality of what they'd already created or they were going on to create. So that was like a real trust of knowing that the artists knew what they were doing. You know? So it was wild. You know? It's surreal. Being an actor is weird.
Thank you, Margarita, for the question. What type of dogs?
French bulldogs.
They really snore.
Oh, okay. You're hearing that through the doors. Oh yeah, Sheffield. Iris and Wolfie, their names are. And I can hear Iris downstairs, 2 flights of stairs in the kitchen, snoring. It's like almost the house breathes with her. That's my love. Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Hi, my name's Ian. I'm from Arlington. So I wanted to ask about your podcast, True Spies. Available now on Stitcher.
My agent is
So is there a story from the podcast that you would, in a perfect world, would like to see adapted into a feature film or a series on Disney Plus or anything like that?
Oh.
Would you want to be involved as a director, performer, producer, something?
That's a great question. I think there's so many of them. There's one thing though that I was reading a book at the time, so I suddenly got into the sort of spies, that world a little bit more, true stories. And there was one that they haven't done, which is the story of Amaryllis Fox, who was a former spy. She's around now, she's retired, and she had the most extraordinary life, and she talks about living a double life, having to pretend she was married to someone, knowing that, but she describes things about how to kind of remove any trace that she's been there, or how to check the cameras in hotel rooms. I mean, I was getting sort of excited and slightly paranoid, so I'd go into like a hotel room and I'd like check behind the mirrors, check behind the toilet, and just thinking I was kind of a spy. And she also talked about what she found when she was pregnant, and she was also she was working with the Taliban, and she was working diplomatically in peace talks with the Taliban, and she's a very beautiful white woman, pregnant, and thinking about in an environment like that, the kind of resolve and the kind of diplomacy and the kind of respect she had to have and learn about other people's language and their ways in order to create some sort of progressive, positive movement that saved people's lives, while she was also very aware of the danger that she was in and she was pregnant. It's, for me, just a remarkable example of the strength that it takes sometimes to be a woman in the world, and also the needs of looking after your own child. Anyway, long story short, I think that would make a great film. I think actually though, Brie Larson might already be playing her, which is another Marvel lady, so that's all fine. But is there any episode in particular that you liked that you think would make a good movie?
I might have to get back to you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi.
My name's Allison. I'm from St. Louis. I bet you were here there like a while ago. It was a long time ago. So someone actually asked my question. It was about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I was wondering, in your lip sync battle with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., if that were still continuing, what song that's come out since then would you wanna lip sync to battle them now?
Oh, that's a really good question. Really not today with modern music.
It doesn't have to be a newer one, just maybe one that you didn't use.
I think probably like because Tom Cruise's film soundtracks are so brilliant and epic and funny. I think we would do like a Tom Cruise kind of homage that would involve, and also because so many of his films are so exciting and intense and adrenalized, it would mean we have to really up our game. We have to be jumping off buildings and just heavily disguised and sort of. I think in order for lip sync battles to work, we would have to go that much further. We'd have to start really putting our life on the line. So it's just as well we've all moved on, kind of. You're welcome. Hi, come on up. Hi.
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm from Leesburg, Virginia, and my question is, When you were filming Captain America, the First Avenger, is there a particular scene or even an offset moment that really is special to you, that really made you feel like, wow, I'm now part of the Marvel Universe?
Oh, that's such a great question. It makes me feel nostalgic for that time because it was such a magical time. There's a couple. One of is the man boob grab. That was for you guys to enjoy because I didn't. It was such a sort of tightly run ship, and everything is got to be by the book. Marvel know exactly what they're doing, and you, as an actor, turn up and you want to do the best version. But I was also trying to make it my own, and so when he comes out of the pod, and it was in the script something like, Peggy goes up to him to make sure he's okay, and you can't see that body come out of that, and not feel that in order to find out if that person is okay. But you know what? Times have changed. I would probably now ask for consent. But it's yes, times have changed. But that was a sweet moment, I think, and also it was just such a kind of made it sort of really awkward and a bit weird in a way that I really could relate to. So that was a particular moment, and then I remember when we did the final. Just that final scene where she's saying goodbye to him when he's going down, and I remember the director. We were doing the scene, but it was sort of kind of a long day, and I was struggling to find emotionally connected to it. So Chris was behind the set reading the lines to me. So I knew he was like sitting on a box in his trousers, just going like, "Okay, Peggy, where are we going to dance?" And I can kind of hear him over there, and I'm having to just do my scene. And I couldn't quite engage with it, and then the director, Joe Johnson, said, "Can I show you something?" And he took me into his trailer, and he showed me my audition. And he said, "This bit is what got you the part, and when you did it, everyone around you was crying." And I watched it. It was very weird to see yourself being in such a vulnerable situation and express that in front of people. But I remember sort of watching it and thought, as strong as she is, and as strong as we are, we kind of have to be to navigate the world. Those moments when we are able to be vulnerable and to express our emotions and our sense of sadness or loss when something sad happens, we feel closer to each other. And I felt that was a moment where Peggy didn't just have to be this strong character, that you can see her vulnerabilities and that makes her much more relatable and human. So that was just more of a poignant moment. And then probably Martinis with Stanley Tucci in his trailer. Nice one, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, how are you?
It's Francis and
Hi Francis.
We've seen you in like Endgame and the Multiverse events. What is the chance to get actually coming back in the next phase of Marvel? Was Agent Carter or Captain Carter or?
Do you guys want it to come back? Do you guys want her as an agent or as a captain? Captain. Either will do. Well, I have no news for you. But I share your enthusiasm, and I would love to feel that if Marvel did find a home for her, that it's a home that feels worthy of her in terms of her evolution as a character and development as a character. And the experience I've had in playing her has given me the most incredible opportunity to hone my particular craft in this franchise. And I want more to do. And because I feel that the fans deserve that, in some ways for a lot of people that she's a minor player, and it wouldn't make sense if I would continue to be a minor player in that, if it felt like, well, this is a different time. And also particularly as a woman with everything that's happened in the last few years, when she says, her tagline, "I know my value, anyone else's opinion doesn't matter," that's really good, but I want everyone to realize her value. And in the same way that essentially her own self-esteem and dignity comes from that sense of she knows her worth, she just gets on with her job and she works for the sake of work with dignity and she loves it. She doesn't need validation. But there is one thing that she deserves, which is agency in the world. And that can't come until certain people in positions of power, namely the men, cede their power and offer her that platform. And so, I'd like her to have that opportunity, because then I feel like I have something much more interesting to offer you guys.
Thank you. How are you?
Thanks. I'm Rob from DC. Nice
Hi.
to meet you. I heard you were named after Hayley Mills, and I was wondering whether you ever met Hayley Mills and whether you've ever met any young girls who were named after you.
Oh, that's a great question. Yes. So Hayley Mills, for those of you who don't know, was a Disney child actress. She was in films like The Original Parent Trap, and I've seen so many nodding heads. Good. She's such a legendary child actor. And I was brought up on Whistle Down the Wind and Tiger Bay and Summer Magic. And my mum only ever had one name in mind. Thank goodness I was a girl. I mean, if I was a boy, she would call me Hayley anyway. But when I was 11, she was doing a play, a Noel Coward play with her sister Juliet Mills in a small regional theatre outside of London called Fallen Angels. And Mum took me to see her. And one thing my mum would always do when she took me to see a play is that we'd go backstage and we'd meet the actors and to thank them, because if they had done something that had moved us in some way, it felt only right that we would engage with them and just mark that occasion by just saying, I see, thank you for this. This is what I liked about what you did. So we went to meet her, and I remember, because I was 11, I was sort of doing that, and she had this extraordinary, she looked like a lioness. She had this extraordinary fluffy blonde hair that sort of fell down. And I remember when my mum said, Hayley, this is my daughter, Hayley, I named her after you. She went, oh! And she was so moved by that. And I always remember she made me feel so seen, and she was so warm. And I thought, I'm going to remember this moment forever. I remember what that felt like. And it inspired me to also want to be an actor. And then later on now, so Simon Pegg, who's in the Mission Impossible franchise, he's very close to Hayley's son. So I said, Simon, well, I'm, say hi to, and she had this book coming out, a memoir of her life, and I mentioned it on my Instagram, and then she sent me a message, and it was the full circle feeling of having, partly because she was so kind to me, it inspired me to keep going and wanting to be an actor myself. And here I am as an actor, celebrating her work as another actor, and her responding to me. It was just this very beautiful, surreal moment. So yeah, she's an incredibly elegant and intelligent woman who I greatly admire. And I'm just thinking, I've met people who call their children Peggy and their son's Carter, which is amazing to me. It's incredible to see a character who, again, my gentleman asked me earlier, had any idea of the impact it would have, and of course you don't. You only live in the moment and you respond to what's right in front of you. So to years later, people go, this is Peggy, or this is Carter, thinking, you guys have taken her into your hearts based on something in her that you see that relates to who you are. And I always remember thinking, I want every person that I meet who's in some way called Peggy or Carter or Hayley to feel the way Hayley Mills made me feel when I was so young, and I'll never forget that. So, yeah, it's a lovely thing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
It occurs to me that this is our backstage. This is our opportunity to thank you for something that you brought to the screen that we have felt or experienced. So it's interesting to me to see this all come full circle, right? We're here.
Hello, I'm Ray. Thank you so much for coming to our convention, Ms. Atwell. I had an entirely different question, but then someone earlier mentioned Doctor Who, and it sounded like you were familiar with it, so I wanted to instead ask, who is your favorite regeneration of the Doctor?
Oh my goodness, I don't watch it. I've seen an episode in quite a while, just because I'm a bit rubbish, and I know it's brilliant, and I love the new casting. I'm such a huge fan of the actor from Sex Education. Brilliant, it's about time.
His name is Shooty, correct?
Yes, yes. I have to say, I will watch it now because of him. I'm really excited, and I think it's right. You couldn't. It's the sex education. I think it's brilliant casting.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Hi, how are you?
Hi, my name is Morgan. I'm from Annapolis. Hi. I do just want to add real quick, another role of yours I love that I just recently watched is Evelyn, my wife, Christopher Robin. It's the cutest film. But my question is about your experience with the Marvel franchise. It's just been such a long journey and so many different iterations, and I love that you've been willing to share that with us. And so I'm just curious, throughout this journey, what is the most valuable lesson you learned and what you've really taken with you throughout your time?
Just filter this down to the most kind of succinct answer I can come up with. I think, when I first got the job, I was very much a jobbing actor, and I'd done lots of plays and I'd done adaptations of books, period dramas. Not being in a position to choose or turn things down necessarily, it's an odd dynamic between someone who is, you're playing someone that seems to have a lot of power and is being watched by an audience and therefore has a kind of presence in a social, publicly. But from the inside, you're sort of an actor, just kind of hoping you get the next job. And it's a weird paradox, that feeling. And I think, it's very unusual to have been involved in something. Because most actors, a lot of actors will do one particular project, move on to something else. It's very, I don't know in what other world, apart from a franchise, you go back and revisit the same character. So that's a very unique experience. But what I can say about that is the ongoing relationships I've had with the creative team at Marvel and friends that I've made, and James Darcy remains one of my best friends to this day. And Eric Pearson, who he wrote Thor, but he also wrote a lot of our show. Those friendships are very dear. So it's like how to sustain kind of good friendships within the industry and making sure that you have allies that you can confide in. But I think ultimately, the young, green, sensitive, wanting to do well, wondering what the future was going to be like, Hayley from the first experience of Captain America, to then learning things like sometimes no is a complete sentence. How to negotiate a contract where one person is appropriately compensated for their time. How to challenge particular narratives that might be problematic based on a cultural consciousness that we're in. And so understanding the responsibility to become a businesswoman within a job over time, because you're growing and learning things and being able to grow up in it. In many ways I grew up in the Marvel world, particularly in my career I grew up in it. So just being able to assert oneself a little bit more confidently because you're armed with some facts about the business. And what I will say is the support and the kindness I've had from these core people at Marvel, who I think are just such wonderful people, who have really championed that voice. I never felt like I was, I wasn't allowed to speak up. And even if I felt I was allowed to speak up, I was going to speak up anyway, because I know my value. But I think it's that really. It's also, so I would say, passing that on, of going, when we start off in any kind of chosen career, we are one way and we have so much to learn, but there has to come a time where we start to go, I know who I am, and I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm capable of, I know what my job is, and I know when it's time to ask for more, and when I know there are certain behaviours that are no longer appropriate, and being able to have that confidence to start to change the climate around us so we get to tell people how to treat us. That's the main. It's a long conversation.
That is a good answer. Absolutely. Hi, question over here.
Hi, Hayley.
You look amazing. Wow.
You're gorgeous. Thank you. I'm actually a variant of yours from another universe. Nice to meet you in person. My name is...
Heads going to explode, aren't they? Like self-combust.
My name is Sabina, and I'm from Northern Virginia. So you've mentioned the phrase, which is my personal favorite phrase from Agent Carter, I know my value. You've said that a few times today, which I appreciate, and I'm so glad to hear that that resonates with you as much as it likely resonates with everybody else who's a massive fan of Peggy Carter. My question is, do you think that that is her most powerful moment that you have played in all versions of Peggy? You've played her in multiple different roles, different ages, different timelines, phases of her life. That phrase, is that what really resonates with you as a person? Do you feel like that's her strongest moment? And I know you were mentioning her vulnerability earlier, which I appreciate as well, but what do you think is really her most strongest resonant moment that gives her that agency and paves the way for her future in the universe?
That's a great question. Thank you. Well, a couple of things. I think when you were talking, the thing that comes to mind is, although it was an animation, how much fun Captain Carter is to play. Because although I was effectively in my pajamas, listening to snoring French dogs, watching the storyline, seeing that unfold of this is how much fun she would have if she was given that platform, and that felt first of all so much more fun to play, but also worthy of her abilities. You know, the I know my value. That line comes from when Susan says, "Aren't you angry that this guy took the credit for what you did and is going to get the Medal of Honor and all that?" And when so she's saying it very much in her acceptance of this patriarchal system that she feels stuck in. And because she has such sort of quiet dignity and grace, and she loves her job enough to know that what she gets out of it is equal to what she puts in. She doesn't work for the sake of the work. So that was sort of a response to this system that she navigated very beautifully. But as Captain Carter, that system is dismantled, and she's actually finally given the ability, the resources, the platform, the power to reach her full potential. And I find that much more interesting. I think that because that's where we should be going as women, is going, well, I can't imagine what my life could be like or look like if I was able to have the kind of agency that some of my male colleagues have. I don't know what that looks like, so I don't have a blueprint for it necessarily. But to think that that might be a possibility in this world, then it's limitless, and then it's very uplifting and inspiring. And also, having said that, I don't think if she was to given that position of power, say in live action, she would lose her dignity, her grace, her kindness. I think there are innate inherent qualities that she has. It's very much tied into knowing her value. But I think she would just do more. She would just do more and have a better time and get paid better.
So speaking of agency and choices, and you mentioned being in several plays and stuff, any particular play that's like your dream where you're like, man, I gotta play this role, you know, at some point, something that you really just feel or actively like to play aside or with?
Yeah, Iago.
Uh-huh. Yeah?
Iago's such a, because it's such a, I like, on stage, I like playing morally ambiguous people / sociopaths. A
lot of actors say that. It's more fun to dig into that character.
Yeah, it's because it's so sort of alien to what I know that it's fascinating to be in the mind of someone who lacks such empathy that can do sort of things, but also have their own understanding of, or their own reasons for it. And we need those sort of villains. I think they keep the conversations about our social responsibility and the way they engage with each other in everyday life. Those conversations become more heightened when we see the opposite, and we see the dark side, the shadow side of the human condition. If they're told well, and I like with Iago, it just makes sense to me that she's beginning when he talks about again being overlooked, expected a promotion, being overlooked, and one of the first lines of Iago was, "And by my troth I am as good as any man." And thinking there is always this kind of love story between Othello and Iago, where you go, his hatred is matched by his love of him. There's this kind of very deep intimacy between them. And I thought it's an unrequited love story, then that seems like an interesting new take that I haven't seen. You know, I think with the Shakespeare that there's so many extraordinary characters there, but few for women. There's quite a lot of thankless parts. I think you just can't. Oh my God, I don't think I said that. Sorry. Shakespeare. Compared to the men, you know. I love Therese Racan in Emile Zola's play, although again that's quite dark. I played Rebecca West in Ibsen's Rosmer's Home, and to me that was, I don't know if I can get better than that in terms of the experience of the production that came from an incredible ensemble of people who I respected and admired. We shared a work ethic and we had a lot of fun. A production design that felt so effortless, walking into a whole curated world that was complete, because the attention to detail on the sets and the costume and the props was so powerful. And the writing adapted by Duncan Macmillan, who'd done People, Places and Things, and a playwright I'm much respect for. That's a real hard act to follow. So now it's probably also less about the play and more about the director, the other actors, where it's going to be put on, because those definitely inform the quality of the production. And Cleopatra.
So who would you want to have play Othello?
Oh, well, it's hard because one of my dearest friends has kind of played him recently, and that's David Oyelowo. So if he wanted to do that part again, then he already knows the lines, so it'll be less work for him. Yeah.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. No
Hi, my name is Chloe. I'm originally from Hawaii. I love that Peggy's line has come up so many times during this panel, and I really love that second part where you realize that her empowerment is self-driven, largely based on everything else happening around her. But I was wondering if in all the work you've done, what was the first role that made you feel empowered?
Oh, good question. I think there were, in every job there were moments based on probably finding something that worked, or having a rapport with the director or an actor that were like, or the sense of going, I think I can do this. But it takes a long time for that to be the general overall experience. It's like moments of empowerment, and then like, and then moments of going, I'm never going to work again. And then moments of going, this feels amazing, how do I maintain this? And then just go back home again. And so it takes a long time for that feeling to be the new normal. Like anything, that takes conscious practice for me to feel having a healthy level of self-esteem, I have to do esteemable acts. I have to do actions that give me back a sense of esteem. And so when I started to work on regardless of the outcome, what is my work ethic? And how do I develop that so it becomes consistent? So if I'm doing an audiobook or a voiceover or for a commercial or a franchise film or a play, the approach and the intention is exactly the same. I'm there to serve a story in hope that it will land in a particular way for an audience. That's the thing that comes foremost. And then the other one is I'm part of a group of people that are all working towards a common goal. So making them feel respected, seen, and that can be shown by being punctual, being polite, saying sorry if you're really grumpy one morning and then that person took personally. Just saying sorry is a very powerful tool as well. That overall then gave me a sense that regardless of how I felt about the performance or the final product, I was caring about how I behaved. And that was giving me a consistent sense of self in the workspace. And I would say that transcends the form of whatever the job is, or however so-called successful, big, or independent, whatever it is which is not in my control. But what is in my control is how I choose to face the day. And that's empowering.
Thank you so much.
I would take a second to remember